comes to energy in New York State, and I know you've answered all these questions. I just want to ask you, so can you answer this, because I think you've said it, but I want to give you a chance to clarify it. You support an all of the above smart energy policy. You just don't support extended subsidies on certain industries.
Yes, and I support just doing the math. Doing the math.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really appreciate you saying that, because this is what we need in New York is common sense. And I could cite all kinds of craziness. I've listened to sadly, some Democrats on the other side of the aisle are going to go down the wrong path when they see how catastrophic it can be when your energy grid has been warned by the New York Independent System Operator, NYSERDA, our own government agencies, Democratic-run agencies in the state of New York have warned New York over and over and over again about the catastrophic, dangerous state of our energy grid because of policies put in place in 2019, particularly the Community Leadership or Client Leadership and Community Protection Act, which actually over time bans fossil fuels and all of the above strategy. Yet, New York State today, New York City specifically, is over 90% dependent on fossil fuels, specifically natural gas, while the rest of us in upstate New York are only about 30%, and the entire energy grid in New York State is only about 47% fossil fuels. And yet, here we are in upstate New York, making up for New York City because they oppose pipelines, they oppose transmission lines, they use the utility companies to actually collect what they call delivery fees against, and so when they talk, I hear everyone complaining about the cost of energy. If you look at the change in our energy bills, it's delivery costs that have been imposed by the state of New York, our governor, on the utility companies to collect those to use for Democrat purposes, not necessarily to bring down the cost of energy. So I think you cited earlier the change in energy prices, and I don't know if you could quote that again, how much energy prices have gone up in the state of New York specifically or generally, if you know that.
Yeah, New York is one of the faster rising states, together with California, Massachusetts, Maryland, and Delaware, I think, have had the fastest rise. And one of the common things is they all produce less electricity today than they did 5 years ago.
Right, and yet the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act mandated that we use less fossil fuels today than we were to use in 2019. Yet our demand and use of fossil fuels is even greater, and New York City uses even more than we do in upstate New York. I wanted to say, what could you tell New York State if you were to be able to talk to our governor and our legislators? What could we do? What would you tell New York State to do to support our energy grid in an all of the above strategy with less subsidies and lower pricing?
I mean, just dive into the math and get out of the grandstanding. New York saying it's fighting climate change. New York is completely irrelevant for global greenhouse gas emissions. Nothing it could do will move that needle. That needle will only be moved by new energy technologies competing economically and going into global scale. Nuclear is going to play a role in that. Fusion could play a role in that. Geothermal could play a role in that. But New York policies, all they do is make energy more expensive for New Yorkers today. These efforts to push electrification of heating, that is a guaranteed way to increase heating costs, at least double and maybe 3 or 4 times increase the cost of heating for citizens of New York. Why would you do that? You sit right next to Pennsylvania, the mother of all shale gases, incredibly cheap energy.
Wait, we are the mother of all shale gases, but we're the only state in the country that can't touch our abundant, rich natural resources.
Exactly, right underneath the state of New York. Wealth, jobs, biggest source of decarbonization. If New York really wanted to champion greenhouse gas emissions reductions, natural gas by far the biggest needle mover there. You have a resource right under your feet. So New York could do so many. They shouldn't have closed Indian Point regulator. They shouldn't make up these stupid goals or objectives. I was glad to see the governor of New York back up on the next one. But these are just arbitrary things made up by activists. They're not made up by people that do math and care about the citizens of New York. Thank you for fighting for what you're doing. The New Yorkers need you.
No, thank you. And I appreciate you talking about the nuclear and also helping us get this nuclear back on track. All of the nuclear power plants that are operational in the entire state of New York are in my district, New York 24, and we are doing everything we can to get them upgraded. We appreciate the work you've done, the work that obviously Lee Zeldin, who we wish he was our governor, but boy, am I glad he is where he is. He's doing a phenomenal job as our EPA administrator. Thank you so much for what you do. I've run out of time, but appreciate your work. Thanks so much. I yield back.
Thank you.
Representative Claudia Tenney framed this exchange as if New York's energy challenges have one simple cause: Democratic climate policies. It's a message that sounds straightforward, but the reality is considerably more complicated, and that's exactly the kind of nuance that often gets lost during congressional hearings. Throughout this conversation, Tenney repeatedly describes New York's energy grid as catastrophic, and argues that the state's Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act has created an energy crisis by discouraging fossil fuel development while increasing costs for consumers. Her questioning is designed to reinforce a familiar Republican argument: that government intervention, environmental regulations, and investments in clean energy are driving up prices while making electricity less reliable.